So now in this video, we're really going to be looking at the same circuit I did a couple of videos ago, but it was my op-amp, my last op-amp video, where we used an 18 volt single supply and split it into a positive 9 volt and negative 9 volt supply with a 0 volt virtual ground reference point. So that was one op-amp. I used a UA 741 op-amp to do that. And then for the oscillating circuit that we see here now, I'm going to call it an alternating square wave generator circuit, because as you can see, the LEDs are flipping back and forth. Sometimes the output's positive, sometimes it's negative, but they're not fading on or off. They're on fully and then off fully. So it's basically square wave, and it's pretty close to exactly even the amount of time. So this video, we're actually going to replace using two physical components with a dual op-amp. So this op-amp has two op-amps within it. So this op-amp component has two op-amps within it, so it's a dual op-amp. And so I used the TL071 in the last op-amp video I did. This is the TL072. It's dual op-amp. So by the way, I really like this op-amp kit for learning about new op-amps, because there's a variety of them. It didn't cost too much, but now either I can't find it or it's a lot more expensive, I think, than what I paid for it. So I don't really recommend it now, but of course it's up to you what you buy. So in any case, we will take this apart and rebuild it step by step. Again, I already went over the circuit. We took multi-measurements of this part of the circuit when I used two individual op-amps. The voltages should all be about the same in everything. So all this is going to be really is a step-by-step build of the physical circuit that I think will make it easier to build circuits. So now, after I shot that last scene, I don't want to reshoot it again. I realized I used the TL061 in my last videos, which I think for this circuit will behave exactly the same as if I had used TL071. But we are using the TL072 dual op-amp in this video. So to begin with, the first op-amp, the number one op-amp here, we have the non-inverting input pin 3. We got, of course, the power pins, and so I wrote ground on there. I was using this for a comparator. This should actually say the negative voltage, but ground will work too. Ground is the most negative part of our 18 power supply. And so we got the positive side of the power supply there, often called VCC, so I should have rewrote that too. But anyways, pin number 8 goes to the positive rail, pin number 4 goes to the negative rail. That's the main takeaway. So the pins for the op-amps, we got 3 the non-inverting input, 2 the inverting input, and 1 the output. The pins over here are wired the same. It's just 3 different pins, but at the bottom we have the non-inverting input, the inverting input, and the output. So 1 is on the left side here, and then 2, the 2 op-amp, is to the right there. And so what we're doing with the first op-amp, and so the inverting and non-inverting pin on the schematic are the same as this physical component, where the inverting is on top, non-inverting is on bottom. The output though is to the top. I have this jumper there just to, these two jumpers, they just add distance and other spots for the output. Also, take note here, before we block it, there's a really little jumper here that is going from the inverting input to the output, and that is right here. So we already have this to the board, and what this is doing, it's creating a voltage follower. So we're setting a voltage at the non-inverting input. We're going to do that with 2 resistors. So let's do that now. And this is the leftmost part of the circuit. Pretty much everything else will be off to the right. So we just want to keep the right as clear as possible. I'm going to put the one from the positive rail. These are 100 1000 ohm resistors. If you need to use a different value, no big deal. Just make sure that they're equal value. If you want half the voltage at the output, which we do. And there we go. So that's it for wiring this up. We're all done with this one. So we have the voltage divider there. So we set half the voltage. So it's 18 volts. We could think of it as setting it as 9 volts there, or else we could consider this 0 volts with 9 volts more positive on one side and 9 volts more negative on the other side. It's all relative. But to avoid confusion, I only use the ground symbol when I actually mean 0 volt reference point of our virtual ground. So, sets the voltage there. If the voltage goes higher, this is inverting, so if the output goes higher than the non-inverting input, then it just lowers the voltage at the output. So the output tries to be more like the non-inverting input than the inverting input. So if the inverting input goes low, it raises the voltage at the output, and if the inverting input goes high, then it lowers the voltage at the output. And so it balances it so that basically it stays at that point. And you may need capacitors and stuff to stabilize it, but I'm going to keep this circuit easy. So now let's go to the next op amp. So now, of course, this op amp is going to have a lot more components attached to it and stuff. The board's going to fill up quite a bit more. And let's get the components that will be farthest up the board out of the way so that it's easier to see from this angle. So first off, we have the LEDs and the protective resistor. And so the protective resistor will block the LEDs, so let's do the LEDs first. And the LEDs are going to ground. This is ground that goes to the top pin of the op amp to the left here, op amp 1. So as I said before, this jumper is connected to ground, and so is that one. So we have all these holes, or we could attach it directly to there. But I'm going to put the LEDs up here, and since they'll be in the back, I'm going to put them down first. So the cathode goes to ground. That's the short lead of the LED. And so we will put the short lead of the LED where that jumper is, and the long lead of the LED we're going to put down towards the output of this op amp, which is right there, op amp 2. Now the blue LED. So we want the red LED to light up when the output of the 2 op amp is high. The blue LED we want to light up when the output is low. So we need to put the short lead, the cathode, to, actually the long lead, the anode, to the ground rail, as you can see there. This is one reason why it really helps to have a schematic before you build it. And I'm going to angle it to the right because it's a lot brighter than the red one. So I don't want it pointing at the camera and in my eye. Even though it's passing probably the same amount of current, it's a lot brighter. And then, so we have those two. We might as well also attach the protective resistor right here. And I'm going to use a 470 ohm. So I'm putting that to the space where the 2 LEDs are not connected to ground. And then I'm going to put it up to the output here, one above the power pin. So now let's go to the next higher up component, which is going to be this capacitor. So this capacitor and the resistor above it, up there, they actually set how the frequency of this circuit. So you can use smaller capacitors if you want to go faster. Also smaller resistors make it go faster. Or you could use larger value capacitors for it to go slower. This is really about the largest one I have that's not polarized, so we can put it to ground. If we have a polarized one, we actually have to go to the negative rail. And I may show that, I may not show that in this video. I did in my last op amp video. But in any case, you can adjust the capacitor and resistors using smaller values for a faster frequency, larger values for a slower frequency. You just have to balance them out, because if you make one larger and one smaller, it might equalize. But in any case, exact values don't matter. It's just how fast you want the LEDs to flash in this particular circuit. So let's do the capacitor first, because the other components, the resistors, are taller, so they're going to hide it. And also the capacitors here, there's not a ton of flexibility. You can extend their legs and stuff, but for the most part they like to be close to each other. So I have this jumper to go up to the ground rail, and the other side of the jumper I'm going to connect this capacitor, which is not polarized, so we don't have to worry about which direction we insert it into the board. But there you can see it's at, because we have the non-inverting pin down there, inverting pin there, and the output there. So it is at the inverting input. And now let's back up a little bit, and we might as well add the 470 kilo ohm resistor. And so this value, I think, will make it where I can still take multimeter measurements, because higher value resistor doesn't seem to allow enough current to go through where I can take voltage measurements, because current will go through the meter and take away too much current. But in any case, that's going to go from the output to the inverting input. So they're right next to each other. That's pretty straightforward. I can just squeeze that into there, right there. And we got that done. So now that is it for the inverting input. Now the non-inverting input, which the voltage is going to be constantly changing at the inverting input, because we have the capacitor and the resistor with a changing voltage at the output. That is constantly changing the current. The capacitor will charge one way and then discharge or charge the other way, however you want to look at it, because we're using both positive and negative voltages. But in any case, it's constantly changing. It's never stable at all in this circuit. We're going to set a voltage, which will flip back and forth because the output will change. So one side of the voltage divider will have sometimes a positive voltage and sometimes a negative voltage. So it's going to flip back and forth, but ultimately the exact voltage that it flips back and forth to, based on the output, will be determined by these two resistors. So what we're going to do is we can wire one resistor right to the output, as you can see there. So from the output to the bottom pin there. And I don't know how well I left space, but that's going to be a 1 kilo ohm resistor. Yep, that's 1 kilo ohm. And so yeah, output is down here, so I'm just going to put it right there, off to the side. There we go. And now, as long as they are in the same row, their wires can touch, which those two are. So now we're going to take an 8.2 kilo ohm resistor. Again, these are not set in stone. The data sheet that I took a similar component, or a similar circuit, was using the 8.2 kilo ohm. So we're going to just jump across the board right there to the output, right there, and make sure that goes to the non-inverting input. So hopefully, and the wire's all bent out of shape. So these are thin lead resistors, but this kit had a whole lot of values, and so that's why I went with this. If you need thicker wires, which somebody wrote in a review, don't get this kit. But I like the range of values. You can see all those values you have and the price, so I got this. But in any case, that should be it. The bench power supply is on at 18 volts, but this jumper is off the rail, and now it's on the rail, and it works fine. So now let's take some multimeter measurements. So we have the meter set to 20 volts or less. Make sure the red probe is in the voltage spot, and definitely don't want it in a current spot, because there's fuses in there for current that can blow easy. And if you measure a power source directly. So first we can look at the rail if we want and see that we have 18 volts there. But if I put the black probe at our virtual ground, then we got positive 9 volts when I go to the red rail, and negative, I should say, 9 volts at the negative rail. So just a tiny bit off, but we weren't quite exactly 18 volts, but close enough. So first, let's go to the non-inverting input. This is where we set the voltage for the comparator to compare whether the inverting input is higher or lower. And so the numbers are bouncing around quite a bit, but one thing you'll notice, sometimes it's at practically -7 volts, and then at other times it's at practically positive 6.5 volts. So that's what I got with the two individual op-amp integrated circuits. And so that voltage is holding about the same, which is what we expect because I'm using the same value resistors to set the voltage, both at the 1 op-amp to split the rail, and then the 2 op-amp for the output voltage being either high or low. And then now let's go to the inverting input and see what the voltage is there. And I think I have to sneak my way up here. There we go. That should be a connection there. But this one is actually changing a whole lot more. It's sliding, it's not bouncing back and forth. But this is going too fast. So what we'll do, I'll unplug this quick and just quickly pop this resistor out and yank the capacitor out. And so to use an electrolytic capacitor, we need to put the negative side of the electrolytic capacitor to the most negative part of the circuit. So the negative rail there, and then the other side is at the inverting input right there. And now I'll put the resistor back, going from the output to the inverting input right there. And if we hit power, we should see it going slower. No, I goofed. It needs to go to the actually to the non-inverting input, not the inverting input. Alright, so what accidentally happened was I put the capacitor to the output instead of the inverting input. But now you'll see that the LEDs change back and forth. And first off, we'll notice that the non-inverting input, there we go, it bounces either about -7 volts down to about positive 6.5 volts. It just flips back and forth, pretty straightforward. And now I can go up one row to this resistor, which also comes to the capacitor there. I can take the measurement there. And now we see more of a slide, and hopefully it will get to, so it'll get to 6.5 volts, I'm pretty sure, 6.5 volts. When we were using a higher, there we go, the meter is sucking away a little too much current. That's a problem. So now it's at first rapidly changing voltage and then gets a little slow. Okay, so the meter doesn't steal too much, but you can see we're sliding up to 6.5 volts and then sliding down to -7 volts. And when it hits those two milestones, because that's what the non-inverting input flips back and forth to, then the output changes and it flips the voltage of the non-inverting input.